Imagine stepping through your front door after a long, ordinary day only to find your two sisters and your best friend's mom sitting in the dark, faces pale, hands shaking. They've been waiting for you, not for coffee, not for help with a flat tire, but for something so forbidden, so impossible, it could shatter your entire world with one word. What if the people you love most asked you to love them in a way no one ever should? Stay with me. This isn't just a story. It's the night everything changed. Jake had never thought much about Saturdays. They were usually quiet, predictable days. Work in the morning, errands in the afternoon, then maybe a walk along the trail near his home in Oregon. That day started no differently. He came back just before sunset, the smell of pine heavy in the air, his body tired, but his mind ready for rest. He unlocked his front door, expecting silence, maybe the sound of the fridge humming. But the moment he stepped inside, everything felt wrong. Three figures sat in his living room, waiting for him. His sisters, Anna and Claire, sat close together on the couch, their hands clasped in their laps, their faces pale with something that looked like worry. Beside them, almost out of place, sat Mrs. Thompson, his best friend Daniel's mother, a woman who had known him since he was a boy. Jake stopped at the doorway, his keys still in his hand. His sisters looked up at him, their eyes carrying a weight he didn't understand. Mrs. Thompson gave him a faint smile, though it didn't reach her eyes. It was the kind of smile people wear when they're holding back something heavy. "What's going on?" Jake asked, his voice breaking. The silence. He tried to sound calm, but his heart had already picked up its pace. He shut the door slowly, as if afraid that moving too quickly would shatter the strange stillness that filled the room. No one answered at first. Claire glanced at Anna, who looked down at her hands. Mrs. Thompson cleared her throat, but said nothing. The silence pressed against Jake's chest until he finally walked further inside. He set his jacket on the chair, glanced at each of them, and then sat down across from them. "You all look like you've seen a ghost," he said, trying to ease the tension, but no one laughed. His sisters exchanged another look, as if passing a secret between them without words. Finally, Claire spoke. "We didn't want to just show up, Jake, but we didn't know any other way." Her voice was soft, almost breaking. Jake leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "Any other way for what? Did something happen? Is it Daniel? Is he okay?" His eyes darted to Mrs. Thompson. Her lips pressed into a thin line. She shook her head slowly. "It's not Daniel," she said quietly. This is about something else, something we need you to hear." Jake felt his throat tighten. He looked from one face to another, searching for answers. His sisters seemed nervous, their shoulders tense, their eyes glassy as if they'd been holding back tears. Mrs. Thompson looked tired, as though she had carried the weight of this moment for far too long. He tried to think of possible explanations. A family emergency, a secret they'd been keeping from him. But why would his sisters and his best friend's mother come together like this? The combination made no sense, and that confusion only made the air heavier. "Please," Jake said, his voice softer now, almost pleading. "Just tell me. I can't stand the silence." Anna's lips trembled as she looked at him. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "We need to talk about us and about you." Jake blinked, his mind struggling to catch up. "What do you mean?" Before she could answer, Mrs. Thompson placed her hand gently on Anna's arm, stopping her. She looked at Jake with eyes that carried years of memories. Birthday parties, summer barbecues, nights when Daniel would sneak out and she'd call Jake to check on him. She had always been part of his world, but tonight she looked at him differently. It unsettled him even as it pulled him closer. "Jake," she said softly, "I know this is sudden, but there's something we need to ask of you, something we can't carry alone." Her words struck him like a stone thrown into still water. His sisters nodded, their expressions tightening, their hands twisting in nervous circles. Jake leaned back slowly, his heart pounding louder now. He wanted to speak, to demand clarity, but something in their faces told him that whatever they were about to reveal would change everything. For the first time in years, he felt small in his own home. The walls seemed to close in, the ticking of the clock growing louder. His sisters sat in silence, Mrs. Thompson watching him with that unreadable look. "What could you possibly need from me?" Jake finally whispered, his throat dry. None of them answered right away. The pause was long, unbearable. Every second pulled him deeper into the unknown. He didn't know whether to brace himself for heartbreak or hope. All he knew was that the moment he walked through his front door, his ordinary Saturday had ended, and something far more complicated had begun. And as he sat there waiting for words that refused to come, a single thought echoed through his mind. Whatever this is, my life will not be the same after tonight." Or the room felt too small, as if all the air had been drained out of it. Jake sat there watching the three women who had shaped so much of his life, waiting for them to speak. His sisters wouldn't look at him directly. Claire stared at the floor, chewing her lip, while Anna twisted her fingers together so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Mrs. Thompson sat straighter than both of them, but her calmness was fragile, her hands trembling slightly in her lap. The only sound in the room was the ticking clock above the fireplace. Each second seemed louder than the last, filling the silence with its steady reminder that time was slipping away, and still no one spoke. Jake felt his pulse beating in his ears. Finally, he broke the silence. "Please stop keeping me in the dark. Just tell me." His voice was firmer this time, but underneath it was worry. Mrs. Thompson exhaled slowly. Her eyes lifted, finding his. They weren't angry nor cold, but there was something in them he had never seen before. Something almost painful. She had always been like a second mother to him. She was the one who'd packed him lunch when he stayed over at Daniel's, the one who'd cheered for him at baseball games when his own parents couldn't make it. To see her now struggling to hold her composure unsettled him in a way he couldn't explain. "Jake," she said softly, "we came here tonight because there is something only you can help us with. It isn't simple, it isn't easy to say, but we trust you." But the word trust cut deep. He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "If you trust me, then tell me what it is." His sisters glanced at each other. Claire's lips parted, but she faltered. Anna squeezed her hand, and they both nodded, as if silently agreeing who should speak first. Claire swallowed hard, then looked at her brother. "It's about what happened after Daniel left," she began, her voice trembling. "Things fell apart for all of us in different ways. We tried to manage, but we couldn't. Not really. And every time we thought of who could hold us together, who could understand us, who could care for us, your name was the only one that came up." Jake frowned, confusion flashing across his face. "Me? Why me?" "I'm not." "Because you've always been the strong one." Anna cut in, her voice sharp with emotion. "You've carried us even when you didn't know you were doing it. And now we need you to carry us again, more than ever." Jake shook his head slowly, trying to process. He didn't like where this was going, though he couldn't yet put it into words. He looked back at Mrs. Thompson, hoping she would explain. She leaned forward, her gaze steady, but her voice low, almost pleading. "They're right, Jake. We need more than comfort. More than family ties. We need something deeper, and it's something only you can give." His stomach tightened. The words struck him strangely. They were too heavy, too intimate. He couldn't name the feeling rising inside him, but it was sharp, pulling at places in his heart he thought he had locked away years ago. "I don't understand," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" Mrs. Thompson's eyes softened, though they glistened with unshed tears. "We're asking you not to turn away from us, not to shut us out. We need you to step into a role that no one else can fill, to be the one who steadies us, who gives us strength, who shows us that love, real love, can still exist in the middle of everything we've lost." The words echoed in the stillness, and Jake felt his chest tighten until it almost hurt. "Love," she had said. Love, but not in the safe, ordinary way. There was something unspoken beneath it, something that made his breath catch in his throat. Anna's voice broke through his thoughts. "Jake, we didn't come here to confuse you. We came because we couldn't carry it anymore. The emptiness, the waiting. We need you, and we're asking, please don't say no before you hear us out." Her eyes were wide, filled with a mixture of fear and hope. Claire reached for her hand as if to steady her, and together they looked at him with the same quiet desperation. Jake stood up suddenly, pacing the room. His mind was spinning, his heart pounding faster than he could control. He wanted to shout at them, to demand they explain in plain words, but at the same time he was terrified of what those plain words might be. He rubbed a hand across his face, then turned back to them. "You're asking something of me I don't think I can give," he said. "If this is about family, about helping you through hard times, of course I'll do it. I've always done it. But the way you're talking feels like it's something else, something I shouldn't, something I can't." He stopped, unable to finish. The three of them watched him quietly, not denying his suspicion. That silence said more than any words could. He felt his knees weaken as he lowered himself back into the chair, his thoughts unraveling faster than he could gather them. The clock ticked on outside, the sky darkened into night. Inside, Jake sat surrounded by people he loved, his sisters, his best friend's mother, and yet for the first time, he felt like a stranger in his own home. They had come here with a request, one they hadn't yet spoken in full, but he already sensed its weight. It wasn't ordinary. It wasn't simple. It wasn't something he could brush aside. And though they hadn't said the words directly, his heart already knew the truth. He wasn't sure if he was ready to hear it, and yet he knew they wouldn't leave until he did. Jake sat frozen, the air thick around him. His sister's eyes begged him to listen, and Mrs. Thompson's calm but trembling face told him this moment wasn't something they had planned lightly. He wanted to run, to escape, but he couldn't. His heart wouldn't let him. Mrs. Thompson finally broke the silence. "Jake," she said, her voice low, steady, yet almost breaking. "We've came to ask you for something that no one else could give us. It isn't about duty. It isn't just about family. It's about needing someone to hold us together when everything else feels like it's falling apart." Her words sank into him like stones. He tried to respond, but the weight of what she was saying held his tongue. Anna leaned forward, her eyes shining. "You've always been the one we trusted most. The one who was there when everyone else left. Even when you didn't realize it, you carried us, you gave us hope. Now we need you again, but not in the same way." Jake's chest tightened. "Not in the same way. What do you mean?" His voice cracked, almost afraid of the answer. Anna's lips trembled, but she didn't look away. "We don't just want your protection anymore. We don't just want you to be our brother or Daniel's best friend. We want more." The words hit him like a blow. For a moment, he thought he had misheard, but the silence in the room confirmed he hadn't. Claire's soft voice followed, shaky but honest. "We're asking you to give us love, Jake. Not just comfort, not just care, real love. We know how wrong it sounds, but our hearts, they don't listen to rules. They listen to you." Jake's breath caught. His heart raced as though trying to escape his chest. He looked at Mrs. Thompson, desperate for her to deny it, to soften the meaning. But instead, she met his eyes with quiet, unflinching honesty. "They're right," she said. "I tried to ignore it too. I told myself it was impossible, that it wasn't fair to you. But the truth is, I feel it too. The longing, the need. You've been more than a son to me, more than a friend. Somewhere along the way, Jake, you became the only person I could imagine turning to. Not just for strength, but for love." The room spun. Jake pushed to his feet, pacing the floor like a man trapped between two walls. His thoughts screamed at him, "This isn't right. This isn't possible." And yet his heart told a different story. Deep down he knew he had felt it too, in moments he never admitted, even to himself. The way his chest warmed when Mrs. Thompson smiled at him during long summer evenings. The way his sister's trust in him sometimes felt like more than family bonds. Feelings he buried. Feelings he had sworn to silence. Now they were laid bare before him. He turned, his voice sharp. "Do you hear yourselves? Do you realize what you're asking me to do? If I say yes, nothing will ever be the same. We can't go back from this." Anna stood, her eyes brimming with tears, but her voice steady. "We don't want things to be the same. That's why we're here. We're tired of pretending. Tired of empty days and lonely nights. We need you, Jake. And we're not afraid to admit it anymore." Claire rose beside her, gripping her hand tightly. "We've lost so much already. We can't lose the chance to ask for this. Even if it scares you, even if it changes everything, we need to know if your heart can hear us." Jake's breathing grew uneven. He looked at Mrs. Thompson, his last anchor, hoping she would calm them down, but her eyes only deepened the storm. She stood too, her voice softer than the others, but heavier with truth. "I know how impossible this sounds. I've fought it in my own heart for years. But every time I tried to turn away, I found myself drawn back to you. You've been the light in all our darkness. And maybe it's selfish, maybe it's wrong, but I can't deny it anymore. We don't want you as just the man who stands beside us. We want you as the man who loves us." Jake's legs weakened. He sat back down heavily, burying his face in his hands. His heart pounded with a wild rhythm as words echoed in him, tearing him apart. Love, not comfort, not duty, love. He tried to picture the future. If he said yes, the world would never see them the same. Whispers, judgment, consequences he couldn't begin to imagine. But if he said no, he would crush the hearts of the three people who had given him everything. His sisters, who had trusted him since childhood, and Mrs. Thompson, who had loved him in ways even his own parents hadn't. He lifted his head slowly. Their eyes were all on him, full of hope, fear, longing. He saw in them the years of loneliness they carried, the ache of broken ties, the desperate need to be whole again. They weren't asking out of selfishness, they were asking out of love, a love they could no longer hide. His voice trembled as he spoke. "You don't understand what you're asking of me. If I take this step, there's no going back. We will never live ordinary lives again. People will never accept it. And maybe I won't be able to forgive myself for saying yes." Mrs. Thompson stepped closer, her eyes soft but steady. "Maybe ordinary isn't what we need anymore. Maybe it's time for a life that is real, no matter what anyone else thinks. We're not asking for easy, Jake. We're asking for truth." Her words wrapped around him like a quiet storm. His sisters moved closer too, their faces shining with tears, but lit with hope. They weren't letting him escape this choice. The fire in the fireplace crackled. The shadows on the wall flickered. Jake sat caught between fear and desire, between right and wrong, between the life he had known and the life waiting in their eyes. His heart ached to say no, to protect them all from heartbreak. But it ached even more at the thought of letting them go. He closed his eyes, his hands trembling. This was no longer about what was allowed or what was safe. It was about whether he could deny the love that had been quietly growing all along. And when he opened his eyes again, he knew one thing for certain: whatever he chose, his life would never be the same. Jake stood in the center of the room, his chest rising and falling as though he had run a great distance. His sisters stood near each other, their hands linked tightly, while Mrs. Thompson remained calm but unshaken, her eyes fixed on him. The silence pressed against the walls like a weight, and Jake could feel his heartbeat echoing inside his skull. He wanted to speak, to bring sense back into the night, but no words felt right. Finally, he whispered, "You don't know what you're asking of me. If I step into this, if I say yes, everything changes. No turning back." His voice was raw, almost pleading, but none of them flinched. Anna, always the bold one, took a step toward him. Her face was pale, her eyes glistening with tears she refused to let fall. "We know Jake. That's why we're here. We don't want to go back to what life was before. It was empty, broken. I've carried our pain alone for too long. You're the only one who can fill that emptiness, not with duty, not with words, with love." Her words cut him. Love. That word, so simple, so dangerous. Claire followed her sister, her softer voice trembling, but honest. "We're not asking because it's easy. We're asking because our hearts won't stop calling for you. We need you, Jake. We don't want anyone else." Jake's hands curled into fists. He turned to Mrs. Thompson, his last anchor of reason. If anyone could end this madness, it was her. But she didn't turn away. She stepped forward, close enough that he could see the glisten in her eyes. "Jake," she said quietly, "they're right. I never thought I would say this out loud, but it's the truth. You've been more to me than I ever expected. You've been strength, light, and comfort. And somewhere along the way, that became love. Maybe it's wrong in the world's eyes, but in my heart, it's the only thing that feels right." Jake staggered back, his breath sharp. His mind screamed with panic. This can't be real, yet his heart betrayed him. Deep inside, he knew he felt something, too. He had buried it, denied it. But it had always been there, waiting. He pressed a hand over his face, shaking his head. "If I say yes, we destroy everything we've built. Our family, our friendships, our lives. They'll never be the same. People will never forgive us. Maybe we won't even forgive ourselves." Mrs. Thompson's voice softened, steady as a whisper of wind. "Maybe forgiveness doesn't matter. Maybe what matters is choosing what's true, even if the world doesn't understand." Anna reached for his hand, her touch trembling but warm. "Jake, look at me. You've carried us through storms before. You've never failed us. Don't fail us now. Don't fail yourself either. We're not asking for something shallow. We're asking you to give us the part of your heart you've always hidden." Claire's voice joined hers, low but firm. "We can't undo the love we feel, and neither can you. We see it in your eyes. You've been fighting it as long as we have. Please don't fight anymore." Jake pulled his hand away, pacing again, his steps quick and restless. Every part of him was split in two. One side screamed to run, to protect them, to keep their lives untouched by scandal. The other side acted to stay, to give in, to finally let the love he had buried spill into the open. The fire crackled, shadows flickering across the room. Jake stopped, staring at the flames as though they held the answer. He remembered nights when he had felt this same fire in his chest, nights he had convinced himself it was just loneliness. But now, hearing their words, seeing their eyes, he knew it was more. It had always been more. He turned, his voice raw. "If I give myself to this, there's no undoing it. The world will hate us. We might hate ourselves. Are you ready for that?" Anna nodded without hesitation. "Yes." Claire's voice, softer but steady. "Yes." Mrs. Thompson's eyes never left his. "Wes." Jake's knees weakened. Three voices united, three hearts waiting. They weren't afraid anymore. They had chosen him, and now it was his turn to choose. He closed his eyes, his breath uneven. The silence stretched, filled only by the pounding of his heart. Images flashed through his mind, his sisters as children, running into his arms when they were scared, Mrs. Thompson smiling at him across summer dinners, her laughter warm in the night air. The way each of them had looked at him, not just tonight, but countless times before, as if he was their anchor in a world that kept falling apart. When he opened his eyes, all three were still watching him, waiting. Their faces carried longing, fear, and hope all at once. His voice came out low, almost broken. "I don't know if I can survive this. I don't know if any of us can. But I can't deny my heart anymore." A tear slid down Anna's cheek. Claire pressed her hand to her lips. Mrs. Thompson's eyes filled, but she smiled softly through the storm. Jake took a step toward them, his hands trembling, his voice unsteady but true. If this is the path we choose, then we walk it together. No more silence, no more pretending. But we can never go back. The firelight flickered across their faces. Their eyes shone with tears and quiet joy. For the first time that night, they looked free, as if a heavy chain had been lifted. Jake's chest ached, but it wasn't fear anymore. It was love, raw, frightening, unstoppable love. He knew the world outside would never understand, that every step from here would be a battle. But in that room, surrounded by the three people who meant more to him than anyone else, he also knew something else: he wasn't alone anymore. And though the future stretched uncertain before them, Jake felt the fire inside him blaze brighter than it ever had. Whatever came, they would face it together. Still, as he looked at their tearful smiles, he couldn't shake the thought that echoed in his mind. A love had bound them, but would it break them in the end? The question hung heavy, unanswered, as the night deepened around them.